Memphis, Tennessee, April 4th, 1968. People thought Jimi Hendrix had come to the Rosewood Club like everyone else, just to hear some music on a Thursday night. But the truth was something else entirely. The man at the door looked him over. $3, brother, he said. Show starts at 9. The man across from him reached into his jacket without lifting his hat and placed 3 folded bills on the table. What the doorman didn't know was this. Jimi Hendrix had not come to the Rosewood Club for the show. He had come because a Stax session musician named Bobby Raines had told him something 3 days ago that had not left him alone since. There's a girl playing guitar at the Rosewood on Thursday, 19 years old, has a baby at home, works the lunch shift at a diner on Beale Street 6 days a week. She's the best guitarist I've heard in Memphis in 10 years, and she's about to stop playing because she can't figure out how to be both things at once. That last sentence was the one that had brought Jimi Hendrix to Memphis a day early and to the Rosewood Club on a Thursday night. Inside, the air carried the specific density of a room that had been full since 8. Beer and cigarette smoke and something from the kitchen. Fried catfish, collard greens, the smell of a place that fed people seriously. The Rosewood Club held maybe 70 people on a regular Thursday. Tonight, it held more. Word had gotten around about the band, or about the guitarist specifically, the way word gets around in music communities when something real is happening. Jimi Hendrix found a position in the back corner, beside a pillar that partially obscured him from the rest of the room. He was 25 years old and increasingly recognizable, and on this particular night, he did not want to be recognized. He wore what he had worn on the cab ride from the hotel, a plain shirt, dark trousers, nothing that would draw a second look from a room that was looking at the stage. He ordered water from a passing server and held it without drinking it. He watched the stage. The band came on at 9:15. 5 pieces, drums, bass, keys, trumpet, and guitar. The guitarist was the one Jimi Hendrix had come to see. Maria Holloway was 19 years old, small enough that the guitar looked large against her, wearing a yellow dress. That was the dress of someone who had come from somewhere else before the show. Not a stage dress, not something chosen for performance, but the dress of a young woman who had gotten dressed for a different part of the day and had come to the Rosewood still wearing it. Her guitar was a cherry red Gibson SG Jr., a single pickup instrument with a neck that had been shimmed at the heel and a strap that had been lengthened with a piece of leather belt. Handwork that suggested the strap had been bought for someone taller and adjusted with what was available. Jimi Hendrix looked at Maria Holloway's hands before he listened to her play. The right hand, strong, the tendons visible when she positioned it over the strings, the kind of strength that comes from physical work rather than from the guitar alone. The fingernails cut very short, shorter than a guitarist typically kept them, shorter in a way that suggested they were kept short for reasons that had nothing to do with the instrument. The short nails of someone who worked with their hands in ways where longer nails would catch and tear. The left hand, calluses on the fingertips that were exactly right, built over years of serious playing, but the palm showing the specific roughness of repeated contact with hot surfaces and cleaning solution, the palm of someone who cleared plates and scrubbed tables and poured coffee for 6 hours before coming here. Those hands had done many things today. The guitar was the last of them. Maria Holloway played the opening song, and Jimi Hendrix understood immediately what Bobby Raines had meant. The playing was not impressive in the way that technically advanced playing is impressive. It was not sophisticated in its harmony or complex in its rhythmic choices or innovative in its approach to the instrument. It was something prior to those qualities and more essential than them. It was direct. It went from the strings to the room without anything in between, without the mediation of style or self-consciousness or performance, the way that the best blues playing has always gone, before it became a tradition that people studied and after it was simply the most honest thing a person could do with 6 strings and some time. Bobby Raines had been right. This was the best guitarist in Memphis. Jimi Hendrix stood in his corner and did not move. The second song. The third. Maria Holloway's playing settled deeper into itself with each song, the way genuine musicians settle when the room receives what they are doing, and the performance becomes less performance and more simply the music existing in the space it needs to exist in. Partway through the third song, Maria Holloway's eyes went to the side of the stage. A woman had appeared there, older, wearing a coat despite the warm night, holding something. Jimi Hendrix couldn't see clearly from his position. He watched Maria Holloway's face. Her face did what faces do when something requires immediate attention, and the immediate attention cannot be given immediately. It shifted, not dramatically, not in a way that changed the music, but the eyes went to the side of the stage and came back and went again, and the third time they went, they stayed a half-second longer than they should have, and Jimi Hendrix, from his corner beside the pillar, saw the half-second and understood it. The third song ended. Maria Holloway turned to the drummer. She said something. The drummer's expression changed. She turned to the bassist. She said something. She stepped to the microphone. She said to the room, "I'm sorry. I have to go." She said it the way it needed to be said, without explanation, without apology, beyond the words themselves, in the direct way of someone who has weighed the thing and made the decision and is stating it as a fact. She unstrapped the SG Junior. She looked at it for a moment in both hands. She put it on the stand. She walked to the side of the stage where the woman in the coat was waiting and took the bundle the woman had been holding and held it against her chest and walked toward the back corridor. Jimi Hendrix was moving before she reached the door. The corridor behind the Rosewood Club was plain and functional, a passage between the main room and the alley exit, lined with cases of beer and cleaning supplies and a mop bucket that had been left by the wall since at least yesterday. Maria Holloway was standing near the exit, the baby against her shoulder, the baby making the small sounds of a child who is not distressed but is awake and aware of the change in location. She heard footsteps. She turned. Jimi Hendrix stopped 6 feet away. He had not planned what he was going to say. He had learned over the past several years that planning what to say in moments like this was less useful than arriving and seeing what the moment required. He said, "The SG Junior is a good guitar." Maria Holloway looked at him. She was 19 years old and holding a baby in a service corridor in Memphis, and a stranger in a plain shirt had just said something about her guitar. She said, "Yes, it is." Jimi Hendrix said, "You shortened the strap yourself." She said, "It was my brother's. He's taller." Jimi Hendrix nodded. He said, "Bobby Raines told me about you." Maria Holloway looked at him differently now. Bobby Raines was known in Memphis. He was the kind of musician whose name opened certain doors and whose opinion carried a particular weight. She said, "Bobby knows everyone." Jimi Hendrix said, "He told me you were thinking about stopping." She was quiet for a moment. The baby made a sound. She shifted it to her other shoulder with the automatic movement of someone who had made this adjustment thousands of times. She said, "It's not that I'm thinking about it. It's that I don't see how not to." Jimi Hendrix said, "Tell me." It was the right thing to say, and she knew it was the right thing because she answered. She said, "The daycare closes at 9. The show starts at 9. I can't do both." She said, "My mother watches her sometimes, but my mother works mornings and she can't." She stopped. She said, "I've tried to figure it out. I've been trying to figure it out for 3 months. There isn't a way." Jimi Hendrix looked at the baby. The baby looked back at him with the specific evaluating attention of a child who is deciding what they think about a new face. He said, "How old?" Maria Holloway said, 7 months. He said, "What's her name?" She said, "Louise." Jimi Hendrix said the name once, quietly, to himself, the way you confirm something you want to remember. Then he looked at Maria Holloway. He said, "Your hands." She looked down at her free hand, the left hand, the one not holding Louise. She turned it over. She saw what he saw. The short nails, the heat-roughened palm, the specific tiredness of hands that had done the wrong kind of work for the right reasons. She said, "I work at a diner. Lunch shift." Jimi Hendrix said, "I know." He said, "These hands don't belong on lunch plates." He said it without drama, as a simple statement of what was true. He reached into his jacket and took out a card. A plain card, handwritten, a name and a phone number and an address. He said, "There's a woman named Clara James at this address. She runs a program for musicians' children. It's not a daycare. It's something better." He said, Call her Monday morning. Tell her I sent you." Maria Holloway looked at the card. She said, "I can't afford." Jimi Hendrix said, "It's covered." He said it in the tone that did not invite discussion, not unkind, not dismissive, simply final in the way that a settled thing is final. He said, "Go back in there and play." She looked at him. She said, "Who are you?" He told her his name. Maria Holloway stood in the corridor with Louise against her shoulder and the plain card in her free hand, and the name she had just heard still arriving in the full weight of what it meant. The S.G. Jr. was on a stand 20 feet away on the other side of a door. The drummer was waiting. The bassist was waiting. 70 people had come to the Rosewood Club on a Thursday night and had heard 3 songs and been given a reason to stay. She said, "Okay." She went back through the door. The room stirred when Maria Holloway returned to the stage. The stirring had the quality of a room that has been uncertain and has just had the uncertainty resolved, the specific collective exhale of people who wanted more and have been given permission to receive it. She picked up the S.G. Jr. She checked the tuning once. She looked at the drummer. The drummer counted them in. What followed was 45 minutes that the people at the Rosewood Club on that Thursday night in April 1968 did not forget. Not because what happened was technically remarkable or historically significant or the kind of thing that gets documented and archived and referred back to. Because the playing was honest in the specific way that playing is only honest when the player is no longer managing the performance but has simply allowed it to happen, and what Maria Holloway played in those 45 minutes had in it everything that the corridor conversation had released. The weight of 3 months of trying to figure out the impossible math of a life that required her to be fully present in 2 places at the same time, and the specific lightness of having been told by someone whose opinion carried the specific authority of someone who understood both the guitar and what it cost, that the math was going to be solved and she did not need to solve it tonight. Jimi Hendrix stood in his corner beside the pillar and listened and did not move. Louise, in the care of the woman in the coat who had returned to a seat near the side of the stage, slept through all 45 minutes. Jimi Hendrix left before the set ended, through the same side door he had come in, back into the Memphis night. Maria Holloway called Clara James on Monday morning. Clara James said, "I've been expecting your call." The program had a space. Louise began the following week. Maria Holloway played the Rosewood Club again the following Thursday, and the Thursday after that, and the Thursday after that, and the S.G. Jr., with the lengthened strap and the shimmed heel, remained in her hands for the years that followed, going places that a Thursday night in Memphis in April 1968 had made possible, carrying in its cherry-red finish the specific evidence of a life that had found its way to being one thing rather than 2 impossible things pulling in opposite directions. She named her second album Louise. The liner notes said only, "For the woman who started it all and for the man who made a phone call." She did not need to say more. The people who needed to understand it already did. The musicians who had been on stage with Maria Holloway that Thursday night described the 45 minutes after she came back through the door as the best set they had ever played with her, and some of them said it was the best set they had ever played with anyone. The drummer, a man named Calvin, who had been playing in Memphis clubs since he was 16, said, "I've played with a lot of guitarists in this city. I know what it sounds like when someone is playing through something versus when they're playing from something." The first 3 songs that night, Maria was playing through it. Everything after she came back through that door, she was playing from it. He said, "I don't know what happened in that corridor. I know what I heard when she came back." He said, "Whatever was in the way got moved. The music came through clean." The woman in the coat who had brought Louise to the Rosewood Club that Thursday night was Maria Holloway's neighbor, a retired schoolteacher named Evelyn who had been watching Louise on the evenings when Maria played and who had, on this particular evening, brought Louise early because Louise had been fussy and Evelyn had thought the sound of the music might settle her. Evelyn said she had watched the sequence from her seat near the side of the stage. Maria coming to get the baby, the corridor door closing, the wait, the door opening again, Maria returning to the stage. She said, "When Maria came back out, I could see from where I was sitting that something had changed, not in the way she carried herself, not in her face, in her hands. She picked up that guitar like she knew something she hadn't known when she put it down. Evelyn said, "I've watched Maria play for 2 years. I've never seen her pick up a guitar the way she picked it up that night." She said, "Louise slept through everything. I think the music knew she needed to." Bobby Raines said, "I told Jimi Hendrix about Maria because I thought he should know she existed. I didn't know he would come to the Rosewood. I didn't know about the quarter or the card." He said, "Jimi Hendrix always surprised me. Not with the guitar, with who he was when the guitar was not in his hands. The card in the corridor, Clara James, the phone number, that's not a famous musician doing a famous musician thing. That's a person who heard about a problem and decided to solve it. Those are different categories, and a lot of people in the first never enter the second. Jimi Hendrix was always in both.